Welcome to another Founder Wisdom podcast. We have Ophir Samson with us today. He's the founder at Ezra. It's the world's smartest AI interviewer. He's in the Bay Area, spent more than 10 years in car or automobile automation, PhD in applied mathematics, machine learning. Spent some time in London, some time in Tel Aviv. Interesting guy altogether, Ophir. I'm glad to have you on the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to.
Yeah, so I am the CEO and founder of Ezra AI Labs, which, as you mentioned, is an AI interviewing platform. It's built on the back of 3 years of R&D into voice AI, specifically in the recruiting use case. We work with very large enterprise customers, for example, Zapier and a few others, to give their candidates a voice. In this world where applying for jobs is incredibly difficult because, everyone has an AI written resume, so everyone looks really good on paper. It's becoming really hard to stand out from other candidates, and it's also becoming really hard for recruiters to figure out who is a good applicant, because everyone looks the same on paper. So yeah, as a voice AI engineer, I believe that when people speak, they share a lot more about themselves. You get to know someone much more, much better when they speak about themselves and when they, just give you a piece of paper with their LinkedIn profile or so we're applying that voice philosophy to recruiting. And background before this, as you mentioned, did a PhD in applied math at MIT and Imperial College. I worked in a hedge fund, did social impact investing, and spent 10 years, or close to 10 years, in the autonomous driving space.
Right. And also in your spare time, you're a professional magician and chef. You worked at some Michelin restaurant. Who are you? Who are your parents? How was your childhood? Like, what shaped your brain?
Yeah, you mentioned you mentioned being chef and magician. Yeah, I kind of grew up as a magician, so I always have a deck of cards with me, and you'll rarely find me without a deck of cards in my hand. I was my father was an inventor and a physicist, and my mum is an artist, and I grew up with both of their influence, so right brain and left brain influence. Both highly kind of creative people, but were very very keen on giving me a kind of strong education in the sciences as well. So I guess that kind of pushed me into math. But I've always had that kind of creative side of my brain. I really enjoyed the arts as well, which is how I got into kind of cooking and magic. So I like spreading my attention over a number of different things.
Right. And yeah, you started at McKinsey internship, which is a pretty good start, 1 month. Then Groupon, which I think it was in his skyrocketing phase. Then a quant. Why did you go from there to launching your first business, which is called Social Finance Israel, in 2011?
Well, it was on the heels of the financial crisis, and when the world was falling apart economically, and investors wanted to find other ways of getting some social return for their investments in addition to financial return. So I met a man called Sir Ronald Cohen, who is one of my mentors and one of the most kind of influential business people of the 21st century. He was a founder of Apex Capital Partners, one of the founders of the private equity industry, and we co-founded a company called Social Finance that built social impact bonds. These are financial products where investors can make money only when their investments went to measurably solve a social issue that we could quantify and put numbers to. So yeah, social impact is a running thread through every single career decision I've made. Really important to me, and it started in when I built that company.
Interesting. And from there, I think you went to Uber, which was also like in growth phase, I guess, 2016. So you experienced one Groupon and and Uber's incredible growth machine, right? What lessons have you got from being at these companies, and how did you transcend that into Ezra?
Yeah, great question. So I guess scrappiness, hustle, but while still kind of being focused on really working with really strong talent. So in both Groupon and Uber, I mean, it was an incredibly kind of dynamic time. I joined. It wasn't even Groupon at the time. It was called My City Deal in Europe, and it was acquired by Groupon. But there were 20 people in Europe at the time, and so literally, came out of doing a PhD in applied mathematics and complex variable analysis applied to fluid dynamics, and went to sell hotel discounts and manicures at Groupon. It was kind of quite a change, but they had an incredible amount of hustle there. Likewise at Uber when I joined, but they also it kind of showed me how important it is to hustle with the right people who are smart and motivated by the right things. And yeah, I guess in this world of AI, when there's so much noise, in my space, there's 100 different voice AI interviewing platforms. Like the idea of using voice AI for recruiting is hardly original, and so it's all about the ability to execute. And my education for how to execute was mostly from Groupon, the company I built, Uber, and then Aurora, which is one of the largest autonomous vehicle companies in the world.
And what happened in autonomous vehicle industry? Like Cruise fell and seems it's lost a bit of tractions since then. Is that what happened in that industry?
I strongly disagree with that. I think look at the rise of Waymo in the passenger vehicle space. Look at the rise of Aurora in the trucking space. Look at what Uber is doing with huge alliances. 10 years ago, 15 or 12 years ago, when I started working on autonomous vehicles, it was a crazy idea, and the kind of whenever I spoke to anyone about it, the immediate reaction was, I would never go into an autonomous car. Like, I would never share the road with an autonomous vehicle. And now kind of 10, 12 years later, Waymos are everywhere. People in Texas are, sharing highways with autonomous trucks. And it's in Europe and China, and it's growing really quickly. So yeah, it's definitely not. Of course, there are some companies that will, that will fall by the wayside, but definitely a kind of really strong industry.
Right. Why start Ezra? Like, you left a comfy job, I guess, at General Motors. Then you were an LLM into LLM engineering, stealth startup. Maybe you can talk about that one as well, because you ran it for 2 years. And Juliet AI Labs, and then Ezra. Can you talk about like what happened there?
Sure. Yeah, so Ezra is actually my second voice AI company. My first one is called Juliet, and it was acquired by one of the world's largest online dating companies. So the reason why I left General Motors is because I wanted to go into, I think going into AI right now is a bit like going to Florence or Venice during the Renaissance. I mean, it's just a great place to be. But philosophically, I was really passionate about the idea of using voice to really understand people. I think we type to computers right now because historically we built a keyboard 60, 70 years ago, and it kind of just stuck. But we talk to each other. So I believe that in the future, computers are not going to have keyboards. We're just going to talk to them. And then, so that kind of built my belief of voice AI. But then my belief in applying that to recruiting is because the people who I've hired in my life, I ended up spending more time with them than I did my wife. My important people in my life they got less of my time than the people who I ended up hiring. So when I think of like what improves my quality of life the most, it's, am I kind of working with good people? And also as a candidate, do I like the company that I'm working for? These are massive, massive indicators of our happiness. And it's just crazy to me that the way that we find jobs right now and the way we decide who to bring into our, who to employ is done by a piece of paper. We're looking at, you look at their resume and you make a judgment on a human based on a piece of paper. And so I think, I saw the opportunity of applying voice to improve that problem, especially in the world where, as I said, like all resumes are AI generated. So how do we kind of really understand people so we don't have to make a judgment on them based on a single piece of paper?
Interesting. How did you get acquired so quickly? Did you actually reach out to them? Did they just find out about you? Was it a life-changing exit? Usually that doesn't happen in a year.
Well, my first application of Voice AI was actually to executive coaching. So I was working with various really big name executive coaches, and I was making AI versions of them so that they could, they would coach like CEOs of Fortune 50 companies. But the more junior people in the company had no coaching option because coaching is really expensive. So I made AI versions of the coaches to give AI coaching to the more junior people. And that caught on really quickly. People really liked it. And specifically, they liked the voice component of it, that you could like talk rather than type to the coach. That got the attention of an online dating company because the way that online dating currently happens is that, it's all kind of swiping and you're making like very snap decisions about people. But, a profile is not a good representation of someone in the same way that like a resume is not a good representation of someone. And so there was an opportunity to bring like matchmaking services, which are traditionally very successful because they get to know the clients and speak to them about their prior relationships and what they're looking for, etc. And kind of make a much cheaper, more accessible version of that. Because matchmaking services are usually about $20,000 or in that range. And so there was an opportunity of using Voice AI to make a kind of version of that was much cheaper and more accessible, and use AI to kind of really understand someone and make matches to partners based on that more kind of holistic understanding. And then to your last question, yeah, I didn't raise any money for it. I was a solo founder. I built it myself. It kind of worked out really well.
So it wasn't like an 11 Labs integration. You built everything from scratch.
Correct. The underlying technology of it is, it's not hard to take a voice model off the shelf and can deploy it. The problem with that's basically like ChatGPT with a wrapper. The problem with that is it's fine for 50-60% of the use cases. The difficult thing about Voice AI is that it's not kind of building a demo. It's really easy to build a demo. You can vibe code a demo. It's not hard. The difficulty about it is when you put it out into production and you're dealing with real life scenarios where you've got accents, dialects, people speak in unstructured, strange ways. You've got microphone issues, latency. You've got background noise, dogs barking, cafes. You've got to deal with telephone connections, web applications. Like all these kind of things make it a much, much, much harder problem than what you can just kind of get, what you can solve with an off-the-shelf model. And so the underlying technology of what I sold and what we have right now in Ezra is it's a system of like many models that work together, that are orchestrated together to give a very low latency, very natural, very intelligent AI interview that works in production and across all the difficult environments I mentioned.
And for dating, I can see a potential, right? Especially for women that don't want to meet creepy dudes before they actually pre-talk to them. How does it work? Is it like an interview? There's one AI interviewing the data, and then it tries to reproduce the data, even their ums, their ms, and exactly as they are. I hope it's that way, because if it's just like a polished AI, that would sound like super good.
No, yeah. So and to be clear, you're talking not about Ezra. You're talking about the dating use case, right?
Yes.
Yeah. No, not at all. So it's literally like a human matchmaker. So a human matchmaker would get to know
Oh, got it.
you, get and ask questions about what you're looking for in your prior relationships and what's important to you, and then and he or she would kind of make a much richer profile of you that they can use to match you to other clients that they have. Compare that with apps where you would literally, you have to answer a question like, what's important to you, and you're like typing a one sentence representation.
Yeah.
What's important to Charles, like that it's really difficult.
AI avatars would be fun though, right? If they accurately reproduce who you are, like speak to that, to an AI version without the person knowing. And if you deem it a fit on this audio call, on this video audio call, then you could actually meet the person in real life. Just that it would need to be very accurate, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really dystopian to me to make like an actual like visually
It
represent.
respects privacy. That's what I
Yeah,
like, because
also,
some of these platforms actually have video calls, right? Like with
yeah,
real.
they do,
But
but I think like for me, ethically, it's really important to make clear to people that they're talking to an AI and not pretend
oh
it's
yeah, no, not pretend. They would say that's the AI version of Charles.
right. Right.
It's
Maybe
like
I'm
before we actually meet, and it's also awkward to meet someone for the first time for a lot of people, right? I think that'd be a cool feature. I'm pretty sure they're cooking it.
They might be. I certainly am not. But yeah, I mean, it's really dystopian. There's some companies in the dating space that, yeah, you're like, they have an AI version of you that basically goes on a first date with the AI version of someone else. It's just a weird space. I'm not involved in that space any longer. We are purely focused on recruiting, but there's an interesting kind of matchmaking problem there as well. Again, that you're matching jobs to people, and therefore you need to know the job beyond the job description. Like a job description is a really bad representation of a company, and the resume is a really bad representation of a candidate. So we're using voice to try to kind of get to know both sides.
So yeah, walk me through precisely how it works as a company. I just put my description there, and then I have my AI recruiter, right? Which could be viewed as dystopian, by the way, but I think it's a pretty cool feature, especially from the get go. It's not like the first date; it's like the first real human contact. And then if I sign up as someone that looks for a job, I get interviewed by this thing, and this thing actually matches me like Bordy would, right? Like I'm a big fan of Bordy. Is that how it works?
No, not exactly. So the company, let's say your company posts a job, then and they'll get like 1,000 inbound applications. If you were to apply to that job as a candidate, you'd be submitting your resume and then hoping that the recruiter would spend 2 to 3 seconds looking at the resume and then make a decision whether they want to meet you. With Ezra, what happens is that you apply for the job and then they invite you to talk to Ezra for anything from 5 to 30 minutes, depending on how many questions they want to discuss with you. And then Ezra will ask you questions that the recruiter wanted it to ask you about your career and about specific questions related to the jobs. Now Ezra is trained and fine-tuned on the specific aspects of the recruiter, so it knows what the recruiter is looking for in an ideal candidate. It knows what the company's culture is. It knows a bunch of stuff about the company, and so it asks you really intelligent questions with intelligent follow-up questions. and kind of gets to know you, and then afterwards creates an evaluation of you. It doesn't make any hiring decisions. It doesn't even make a recommendation to the recruiter whether they should move ahead with you or not. That's all with a human recruiter to do. But it gives a recruiter 100 times more information about you than a resume would. And it also makes it much harder for you to cheat. So, if you are, because there's like so many, about 50% of applicants to engineering interviews are fraudulent. They're not real people. They're using fake identities, or they're just, they're North Korean actors. Ezra filters out a lot of that, if not all of it. And so, you're making your case to the company about why they should meet you. And then the next step would be a human interview in exactly the same way that it would be if you applied. So we're not replacing a human interview. We're replacing a resume screen. I want to kind of kill the resume. That's my goal.
Yeah, and I want to kill job posts, right? I wish there would be like a boardy that would know immediately my needs, right? And would come up with a better model than like a base salaries on a yearly basis, and would potentially even cold email the candidate for me. I don't want people to apply to a job. I think that's pretty lazy. That's like common thinking. I want me to pick and choose and filter the candidates from the get-go and not be lazy as a recruiter. And then, yes, have interviews with them and then compete to actually get the job, right? And in quick terms. Hey, you mentioned North Korea. Why would they actually do that? Like, have they been successful in penetrating companies?
Yeah, it's a huge problem. North Korean fraudulent candidates. There's different incentives for it. There are some that are just trying to kind of get the job, and there might be like a signing bonus, or the laptop, or the first few weeks of salary until the company figures out that the candidate is fraudulent, or the way to North Korean actors hiring people in the US to work on their behalf. People in the US who have social security numbers, who have a physical address in the US, they get jobs at the company, and then that person gets a laptop and then installs malware from the North Korean actors on their laptop, and gives North Korea access to either IP or other sensitive information, or to funnel money back to the state actors. And then it may not be North Korea, it might be other ones as well. But this is a real problem in recruiting right now.
All right. Hey, before we go, some rapid fire questions. Can you do a magic trick for me while I ask you these rapid fire questions?
When we meet in person, I'll show you my trick.
Okay, you can't do one online that is like mind blowing.
It's not really for you wouldn't be able to kind of pick a card over the video. So I promise that when we meet for a drink in person, I'll show you a magic.
Okay, because you need like physical cues of like my hands and all of that. That's interesting. What's your favorite meal? What would you cook us if I would come to your place as a Michelin guy?
Shakshuka. It's not a Michelin dish, but it's one of my favorite Middle Eastern breakfasts.
Nice. I'll Google it. I don't even know what it. Oh, it's like eggs and tomatoes, right? Or something like that. Eggs and tomatoes. I'll check it out and see. What's your goals this year? What do you want to accomplish with Ezra?
We want to keep growing our business dramatically. So we have an amazing set of customers who we spent a long time over last year in design partnerships, really honing the product. Now we have just a huge amount of demand from some amazing large enterprises. So we just want to keep growing the product, keep improving the voice AI. We've launched a live interviewing feature as well that helps companies do live interviews with candidates as well. So keep giving candidates a fair shot, a voice. in this AI world and give them an opportunity to stand out and to also help recruiters, have an easier time in the world with AI as well.
Yeah, last but not least, because I know you need to run, what does a day in your life look like?
Up at 6, have a morning routine with kids and family, maybe a workout, and then my normal day is a mix between coding for about 60% of the time, 50 to 60% of the time, then the rest with customers and hiring. Those are the main other things, and then I play a lot of squash, big sport of mine, and then more time with kids and some magic practice.
What's your tech stack? What do you code with?
When you say what I code with, is like what IDE, like development environment?
Yeah, Cloud Code, anti-gravity.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So we use Cursor and VS Code when we're not using AI tools. We use Claude Code and Codex whenever appropriate. But voice AI is there's kind of classic web development, and Claude Code is really great for that. Anything to do with voice AI is not Claude codable or Vibe codable. It will give you a lot of it will hallucinate a lot.
Right. And you use Whisperflow, of course.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes.
Okay. All right. Well, Ophir, thanks for being on the pod. Where can people find out more about you?
On my LinkedIn, and then on our website, so ezrarecruiting.com.
All right. So that was Ophir and Charles for another Founder Wisdom podcast.